Hello, everybody. Welcome. Got a really good group today. Big group today. Everybody got their lunch ready? Everybody got their coffee? Just let a few more in.
Sure.
Is this gallery view going to work?
Yeah, it'll be okay.
So we'll just wait a second. Okay, let's crack on then. So welcome everybody to our Friday Lunch and Learn. This is a great opportunity for us to get to meet different people. And this started from when we first started in lockdown. And I know there's a few new people here, so just a little bit of background about how I started this up. It was basically just for me to get to chat to some of my mates and some of my friends. And so we've had some great sessions. And today is a very special session for me today. And in fact, it's not a lunch and learn, it's a breakfast and learn, because I'm joined by Linda and Larry Cammarata, and they are in the States. They're in North Carolina in the US. I met Linda and Larry back in, I think, about 2016. And I was introduced to them by Danny Dreyer, the founder of Chi Running. And I was over in the States, we were doing a Chi convention, and it was the first day over there. And I remember going along, Larry and Linda very kindly invited me to dinner, and I was a bit jet lagged. And we ended up at the end of that evening organizing a retreat, because they both organize and run a company called Mindfulness Travels. And they very kindly invited me to join them on a retreat in Italy, in Assisi. So we went over to Assisi, had this wonderful time. And actually it was Linda and Larry who really got me into deepening my practice in Qigong, in Tai Chi. Larry is a fantastic master, Qigong and Tai Chi. Linda is a brilliant yoga teacher, one of the best yoga teachers I've worked with, really understands the body and the mind. I'm doing some work now with Larry, training again in Tai Chi and Qigong. So that's how I met them. But interestingly, obviously, in terms of mindfulness travels, they haven't had much opportunity over the past year to do some of their fantastic retreats. So this got me chatting to them about the other work that they're doing. So obviously a lot of coaches have had to put stuff online. And particularly what really interested me was the sleep project that they have, that they're working on. Because I didn't know this side of the pair of them when I was working with them in Assisi. So I was really keen to learn a little bit more about that. And then when I spoke to them both, they were just telling me about this program that they're working on. I thought this is just an ideal opportunity to bring it into Lunch and Learn. So this is what I really want to get them to share with you, the information that they've got, because there's so much good information in this program. So I'm not going to chat anymore. I'm going to hand it over to Linda and Larry. But the one question I would have, because this is what I was thinking, is from Mindfulness Travels, how, Linda, Larry, how did you then get involved in putting this sleep program together? What was sort of like your emphasis or your story into producing this program? So welcome, Larry and Linda.
Thank you. Great
Greg.
to be here. Linda,
and welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. So this is not a new program. This is a program that we've been involved in for about 24 years. And it came to be through my own grappling, struggling, suffering with chronic insomnia. And that was initiated or stemmed from a neurological disorder that the medical field refer to as restless leg syndrome. So I didn't have much choice. I've been a holistic nurse since the beginning, really. I started nursing back in 1976. And so holistic health and folk medicine and that sort of thing has always been near and dear to my heart. And I've never really wanted to take medicine unless I absolutely had to. Of course, I respect medicine. But the only option I really had at that time with sleeping 2-3 hours a night for weeks, sometimes months on end, was some heavy hitting anti-seizure meds. And for us, that just wasn't an option because we really believe in, both Larry and I believe in our ability to heal, to use the chemistry within ourselves, our neuromodulators, movement, attitude, mindfulness to heal our own bodies. So that's the journey that started this. And most of the people I work with that have restless leg syndrome, and of course, that's only one little piece of what can be the cause of insomnia. We know that across the board, there are many, many reasons that people don't sleep well. And also sometimes it's chronic, and also it can be situational. And Larry's going to talk a little bit about what's happening in our very current time with insomnia. But what I found is that a lot of people that have these neurological disorders related to restless leg syndrome have had childhood trauma. And so I believe my restless leg started when I was a child, and it has come and it kind of moved in and out of my life. And then when I was in perimenopause, that's when it reared its very challenging head. So the reason that we got into this, and Larry is a great researcher, was to heal my sleep struggles. And so I live this life. I understand. I have such empathy and compassion for people struggling with sleep issues, because I know how devastating it can be to your life and how challenging it can be. So on that note, it's a long-term process. I've been coaching people how to sleep for 20 years. And Larry's been involved in that process, also in the research as well. So that being said, Larry's going to talk a little bit about what's going on with a lot of insomnia today, and then he's going to move into what our program actually involves.
Thank you, Linda. So sleep is a very complex process, and the approach we take, we call integrative or natural. And for us, what that means is combining the best research-validated practices and knowledge that relate to biological, psychological, social, and cultural, and environmental factors that can contribute to healthy sleep. All of those factors can also imbalance healthy sleep. And what I invite you to think about today is to look at, right from the start, allow me to be practical, look at, for example, what rhythms have been disrupted through this pandemic, for example. I recently came across a new word. It's really a casual or informal, not a scientific term. It's perhaps you've heard of it, called Coronal Insomnia. Coronal Insomnia, the insomnia that has been triggered by the pandemic. And I thought about that, and really there's not any real conclusive research or theory about this, but in what I understand about the process and other people I've appreciated who are talking about it, it seems, of course, the world is under so much stress and a lot of loneliness and boredom, which can affect mood, which can also disrupt sleep. And in my way of thinking about it, and I want to throw this out for all of you, it's so important to live a life with a certain amount of regularity in terms of our rhythms. So the rhythms of very simple things that interact with our biology, our neurochemistry, and our psychology. Simple rhythms like when I get to sleep, when I awaken, sleep-wake consistency, when I eat my meals, when I exercise. Those three major things, movement, mealtime, and sleep awake, those things can help regulate your cycles in the direction of healthy sleep. Now, we have so much more to say, but let me transition and say that I invite you to look at or take away at least one thing that really calls to you today, because we found sometimes what we offer unlocks a key for particular individuals. And recently we've been so happy to receive this feedback. So there may be something that strikes a chord in you, and we hope to have some practical information to support your sleep during our time together.
And actually, just one of the things that speak to you that you kind of resonate with today can be life-changing. I mean, we've had a number of people, I've given them, many different ideas and considerations, and invited them to try different things. And feedback comes back, I can't believe it could be this easy. So, life is complex. Our physiology is complex, and our sleep is complex. Due to the full spectrum of living life. And we are here to say that you want to never give up the fact, no matter how chronic your insomnia is, that you can get yourself regulated to a point where you will have longer states of deeper, healthy sleep, which is basically where we heal. It's really, really the healing ground of our life is deep sleep. So one thing I'd like to talk about just briefly is there's no one size that fits all in sleep recovery. And the reason we call it recovery is because we believe that we're always recovering from something. There's, even an emotional upheaval in our day, there has to be some recovery for that. And, we actually teach people how to recover from those kind of mood states to enhance more neuromodulators that support health and vitality, like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. We'll go into that just briefly. And forgive us, because we're only going to tip the iceberg here. We could actually talk about this for 2 weeks.
May I just add?
Yeah.
I just want to add, and I've learned this and appreciated this from Linda's work, that, often when we think about sleep, we imagine bedtime. But Linda especially views sleep as a 24-hour process. Absolutely. That is, healthy sleep involves really a balanced daytime. So we just don't focus on nighttime or the bedtime, but rather the entire 24-hour cycle is so integral to healthy sleep.
And yeah, thank you. And the reason that I emphasize that is we are in a constant flow of adjusting to changes. And actually what we're going to share with you is more pointing towards self-regulation today. And self-regulation, the actual meaning of that, or the way to, understand it, is it's the ability for our systems, and that's every bodily system that we are a part of, the ability for our systems to stabilize through changes. So adjust, stabilize, and also be able to deal with the changes in our life. That's healthy self-regulation. And that is the reason that we focus on that, is because we are in a process of dealing with our rhythms all day long. So we have our circadian rhythms, which are sleep-awake cycles. And then we have our ultradian rhythms. It's hard to say because it's a T and a D real close. And those are actually the cycles. They last about 90 minutes throughout our day. So when we get into more in-depth understanding of these rhythms, we teach people how to actually begin to recognize when you're in your peak time in that 90 minutes, when you need to move your body, when you need to take light, when you need to breathe. We actually teach techniques for you to understand your rhythms more intimately. So that's why this is a 24-hour process. Sleep doesn't just happen. we are preparing all day long by honoring our rhythms for sleep to take us, to release us from the busyness of our life. And, you know, we want to curb the appetite. So we also will teach in more intimate ways how to downregulate or turn the noise down for your nervous system. So there's many techniques that we cover, but today we're just going to kind of give you a light natural sleep recovery program, but you're going to leave with some real tips and ways to begin to create a deeper connection to what sleep requires. You know, so it's an intentional practice. And Larry's going to talk about mindfulness and how that comes into that intentional practice in just a few minutes. One of the things that I want to talk about is, again, I want to reiterate that it can be chronic insomnia that we're experiencing for a whole variety of reasons. And know that if it's pain that's keeping you awake, the antidote is for deeper states of sleep. And that can even be, if it's a lot of pain in your body, that can even be done during the day. But again, that's a deeper, more intimate conversation. But the one thing that I want to, and it can be situational, which a lot of us are going through the situational aspects with the pandemic. Our schedules are completely changed. We're having to learn how to do things differently, which, by the way, is not a bad thing at all in life. And actually, that can, I can also help you with the learning process with the neuromodulators, which is very fascinating, looking at dopamine in particular and serotonin. But so the way we really hold sleep is it's sacred. And most of us have moved so away from this idea that, you know, sleep can be a problem or sleep can take up too much time or whatever. But when you fall back in love with sleep, which is basically what I've done and Larry's done, and we call ourselves sleep warriors because we really protect our sleep boundaries. And, you know, there's more about that too. But we actually understand that sleep is, it's just delicious. It's delicious. It's like the best meal or the best, you know, when you sleep, yeah, it's medicine. When you sleep really well and you get up, it's like, oh, I mean, we know what that feels like. I mean, hopefully everyone has had that experience. One thing I want to say, though, is we're not about doing it right. Because what happens is when we start thinking and putting all of these expectations on our sleep, we create what is called anticipatory anxiety. And now sleep becomes our sort of our friction, a friction that we don't want. And so what we want to help you to understand is that you don't have to worry about doing any of this right. And as a matter of fact, when I work with private clients, I don't even talk about their sleep habits. I don't ask them the next time, how many hours did you sleep? Did you sleep well? Because all that does is it builds up more and more. You know, most of the sleep researchers say that about 80 to 90% of the reasons we don't sleep well, we have chronic insomnia or even such, is anxiety.
May I add to that?
It's anxiety. Yes, please.
Just want to add to something that Linda said from time to time, because I teach mind-body practices. Clients will ask, you know, should I engage in deep breathing at night in the bed to get to sleep? And I often tell them only if you engage in those deep breathing or relaxation or meditative practices, not to get to sleep. That sounds paradoxical, because if we engage in these practice in order to get to sleep, then we have this agenda that can then become an evaluation that can then increase anticipatory anxiety. Am I going to become relaxed? Am I going to sleep? That can interfere with the natural sleep process. We all know you can't actively get to sleep. Sleep is a passive state of surrender. So what I tell my clients often is breathe, meditate, relax, whatever you do, in order to be present to the sensations associated with relaxation, letting go, softness, heaviness, connection with comfort, but without the agenda of I must get to sleep. I see maybe some looks of recognition there. And, from a personal perspective, I've had this experience and I've taken doses of my own psychological medicine in that regard. When I've had some busy-minded nights, I often engage in some slow breathing. But just as I told you, with the idea of going into my body and not preoccupying my mind with some outcome of falling asleep.
Yeah, and that also triggers a thought that I have around mindfulness and mindfulness meditation, which you're going to share here in a few minutes. But it's like this idea that meditation is a time where we clear our mind and we get rid of thoughts. This does not occur. If you've ever tried to sit and clear your mind or get rid of your thoughts, you will find that they're lurking in the corners, waiting for you, and then swiftly coming back through. And so the same thing, what he's talking about in terms of, having this idea that we have to do it, or because we're doing these things, we're going to have these results. And it just doesn't work that way. But the consistency of self-regulation, the consistency of down-regulating your nervous system, the consistency of engaging your parasympathetic nervous system, the consistency of turning the noise down in your life, which, noise is a whole bunch of stuff, right? It's not just the sound. This is what starts to entrain our rhythms in a way that we have what Larry's talking about, this more intimate internal connection to what is actually going on chemically in our body. So I'm just going to talk just a few more moments about, and then Larry's going to get into, but let's go ahead and do a brief practice, because we can talk about this stuff till the cows come home, but unless we actually learn some practices of how to downregulate, it's only part of it. So let's practice. So this is a breathing pattern that you can do anytime during the day when you feel activated. Like when you feel like there's a little bit too much adrenaline running through your body, which elevates cortisol, which then also is a problem with inflammation and pain. So we want cortisol, but we don't want a lot of it. So we want to be mindful about how to have methods of down-regulating our nervous system when we feel activated. So this is the technique. It's very simple. It's very simple. And this is from Andrew Huberman's work out of Stanford. Yeah. And he's just phenomenal sleep researcher. He also in his lab does ophthalmology. So he's been able to connect, all these creative cells in the eyes and how it affects them. Oh, it's just fascinating. But here's the practice. Okay, so what you're going to do, it's a gentle breath. He teaches a little bit more forceful, but I have found with my folks that the more gentle way is better. But you can, no one size fits all, right? We're going to check things out. So we're going to breathe in through the nostrils, and it's a double breath. So it goes in and then we stack another breath on top of it in. And what we're trying to do is get into the depth of our lungs and the diaphragm is connected to the phrenic nerve. And that phrenic nerve is what will engage the parasympathetic nervous system. So, and then when you exhale, you're going to exhale through your pursed lips, and it's going to be a long, slow exhalation. Now, while we do this, we don't want to get into air hunger. We don't want to cause stress in our body. So just experiment with it with me for a few minutes, and then we'll breathe silently for a little while, and we'll just see, what the outcome is for you. Okay. So it's like this. We're just going to slowly breathe in, stacking inhalation on top of inhalation, and then an exhalation that's long and slow through your pursed lips. So let's begin. When you're ready, you can close your eyes. Okay, let's slowly make our transition back. And just notice what there is to notice. And keep in mind, the more you learn to practice this, or the more you practice this and remember to practice this, the deeper the relaxation, the invitation to rest is going to be there. When you first learn a breathing technique, sometimes like you're learning anything, your head is so wrapped around what to do that it makes, so that's why practice is so important in life. Learning something and then just letting it go, it's just another thing. But when we can actually practice these things over and over and over and over until they become like a great friend, they become someone or something that we want to turn toward in times of activation. Okay, so that's just a little tip on that. Turn toward things, practice things, begin to remember, write them down, put notes, just until you get into this habitual pattern of learning how to downregulate your nervous system so that you can sleep better. That's the key. And we have to do this during the day, not just at night, but by the way, that's another awesome, beautiful breathing technique to do if you feel a little restless when you lie down, or, a lot of us have this mid-nighttime awakening. I hear this, especially from women, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm awake. What do I do? Well, I have a whole bunch of stuff you can do, but at least practice this if you would, because this is a very, very powerful way to begin to deactivate your nervous system. Okay, Larry's going to go into mindfulness now. All right.
Okay, so mindfulness, has gained so much popularity over the last 20 years. And one secular definition that we use is mindfulness is a way of intentionally focusing upon present moment experience with acceptance, openness, and compassion. Now, that's a secular definition that many psychologists like myself are using. Many stress management programs are using some version of that definition. I also like the ancient definition of mindfulness, which really doesn't have to do with paying attention so much or breathing. It really is, it's a word, the word is sati, S-A-T-I. Those of you perhaps having experience with meditation, you might have heard of that term. And essentially, sati is about an active state of memory. I call it remembering. And what do we remember when we're mindful? Well, we remember what helps us to liberate our minds from suffering, what helps us to live with more peace and calm in our hearts, in our bodies. So I rather like the ancient definition of mindfulness having to do with remembering, and the secular definition around paying attention, being in the present moment is very important too, especially around acceptance. So both of those definitions are complementary. Now, what the research shows is that mindfulness meditation can be as effective as sleep medications for insomnia. Here is the significant thing. You don't have to be that motivated to take sleep medications. However, you do have to be motivated to practice. That's the operational word. Practice mindfulness meditation for the benefits to accrue over time. It's not a quick fix. Linda and I are not advocating any kind of quick fix, but rather a process of healing and transforming, which can begin quickly, but the recovery process, takes time. In fact, that urge for rapid results is often antithetical to achieving deep sleep. And so meditation, of course, can be deeply calming. And that deep calm we can sometimes access, if not often, over time. That deep calm also relates to the neurochemistry of calm and the neurochemistry of sleep. And that can certainly support us over time. As Linda mentioned, meditation is not about making your mind blank. One way I've thought about this is that it's more about how to tend to or how to relate to the hyperactivity that often occurs within the space of the mind in a gentle, non-reactive way. That is in alignment with good sleep, not becoming embattled with the thoughts of the mind. And also, mindfulness is not about positive thinking. Mindfulness is about encountering all experience, what we might label positive and negative or indifferent thinking and imagining and remembering, but relating in a way, again, that is open, spacious, present, and compassionate. That tends to deactivate the cortisol, the stress hormone in the brain and body, so that we can achieve states of calm. beyond the practice of mindfulness meditation, which can indeed, activate this calm response, sometimes called the relaxation response, mindfulness in everyday life, whether or not you're meditating to cultivate mindfulness in everyday life can help us become aware of our habits, our ways of being, the patterns that interfere with sleep, and the patterns that support sleep. So, for example, if I'm mindful that at 10 p.m., I'm compelled to go to my computer screen, then I might back off and create a boundary there, because screen time, and we'll talk about light in a little bit with Linda's presentation coming up, screen time will activate the brain and will interfere usually with good sleep.
Melatonin.
Yeah, melatonin production. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So yes, mindfulness-based relaxation especially can decrease the anticipatory anxiety that Linda talked about, facilitate a deep sense of calm, but also can make us aware of those habits and patterns that interfere with sleep. And this I find really interesting because it's extraordinarily simple and naturalistic. When we are mindful at night, we can become more acutely aware of the signals that our body is putting out to us, knocking on the proverbial door of sleep and saying, wake up and get to sleep, in a sense, whereby when we become aware of spontaneous yawning, taking deeper breaths, spontaneous eye closures at night, that is the body's natural way of telling you. You might think about transitioning to the bed. And what many of us do, and this is a no shame process because we're all in it together, what many of us do, like I've done on more than one occasion, well, I'm in the middle of seeing a wonderful movie on the telly, so I'm going to stay up an hour later. And that's going to activate the brain beyond my normal rhythm. So when we are mindful, we can begin to tune into those times and create a boundary around when I want to get to sleep.
Can I say
so?
Just
Yes,
something?
please. Linda.
Yeah. So what I've experienced in practicing what we're talking about, mindfulness, and is there's this level of restraint that has to happen in my life to be able to navigate in such a way that I'm more conscious of not doing the things that provoke anything in my body that pushes me into the adrenaline phase or the overacting the sympathetic nervous system. So restraint is something that I like to share with people because it's not easy. What we're asking is not easy. And that's why we're saying we need to practice over and over. But if you can, a great way to practice this is with someone you love. So someone that's close to you, this is where restraint is the hardest, because we'll just blurt out how we feel, or we'll emotionally get, excited or activated or provoked. And this is when we want to practice this idea. We want to remember that what we're going to do to our body is going to dysregulate us. So we have to practice restraint. We do.
With mindfulness, we often talk about cultivating present-centered experience, cultivating a sense of calm, cultivating compassion, which are all very important. And what Linda's talking about is the complement of cultivation is restraining. When we're mindful, we can be aware of those patterns that interfere and restrain ourselves from certain ways of acting, especially, and speaking, that create more tension in the body mind. Let me just
and I just want to add that by practicing this, you're actually more calm, you're kinder. These are the principles of mindfulness. You're friendlier, you have less frustration level. And of course, when you sleep, better, your tolerance grows big time. One of the issues with low amounts or insufficient amounts of deep wave sleep and REM sleep is you wake up and you're just, there's agitation in the body, and that has to do with some of the neurochemistry that's going on. But so when you consciously practice these things, it's not about shutting yourself off. It's about understanding what you're doing and how you're doing it. And that creates connection. The more we understand why we're doing what we're doing, the deeper we can connect, not only with ourselves, but that has to start first, but with the people we care about in our life, with our colleagues, with anybody we work with our loved ones. So that's why we really emphasize this, because it's during the day that we're setting the foundation to let go at night. So if we have a lot of grappling with our mind during the day and we haven't learned some of these practices, then we tend to ruminate. That's often what wakes us up in the middle of the night. Is during REM sleep, we're firing, our brain is trying to make sense of what's going on. And you can never problem solve in rumination.
May I add?
Yeah.
I just want to add a quick tip based on what Linda said. Sometimes I've told clients, if you need to worry, I'm not going to support you in shutting down your worry. What I'd like you to do is, first of all, not in the bed, do this, but write it down outside of the bed, ideally outside of the bedroom.
Yes.
Write down all your worries for 5 minutes, as many as you can. Put the journal down and then go in your bedroom.
Yeah.
Because if you write down your worries in your bedroom, this is like Pavlov's sleeping dog. You're conditioning yourself to be worried in your bedroom, and you don't want that. So you want to put the worries somewhere else. I'd much rather be worried in my kitchen than in my bedroom. I don't know about you guys.
It definitely, the researchers talk about this. It definitely decreases the rumination at night, and the excessive brain
activity.
Yeah, noise. The brain noise. Neuroactivity. So what all these researchers, and you've probably heard about this through sleep hygiene, is journal before you go to bed. And you can write down who you're angry about or with, or just randomly put it out there, and then close it and be done for that day until the next day. So it's an ongoing process.
Would you like to move into that?
So
I want to hand it over to Linda right now, just for a brief perhaps exercise, or would you like to end on some sleep tips? We've covered so many things.
We have 15 minutes left remaining. Is that true, Gray? We usually go for an hour, correct?
Yeah, we gave you an hour. We normally do 45 minutes, but we gave you an hour because.
Oh, how sweet of you!
Because I knew it was so good, and I mean, inspiring.
Yeah. So Gray, we can do a little bit more of why we need to sleep well, or I can take them into one of the practices that I actually can give you the link for too, but it works a lot better if I can do it in person first. And it's called Natural Sleep Recovery Autogenics. And autogenics simply means self-regulation. And so I can lead that. That's going to take at least 10 minutes. And then we can, the issue is we want to be able to, we also want to be able to do sleep tips.
May I make a suggestion?
Yes, please.
We will provide you with the link. It's a YouTube link of Linda facilitating this experience. This way we won't be compressed, and then you can relax into it, use that on your own.
And let me recommend. So when you listen to this, so what you'll do is you'll just hit play on your YouTube link. And you'll first hear Larry introduce it with a disclaimer, and then I'll come on. It's only like 13 to 14 minutes long. It is extremely helpful anytime during the day where you feel dysregulated, exhausted, overstimulated. And it's really, really great if you can do it before you go to bed. It puts people to sleep. And also if you wake up in the middle of the night, it's extremely effective. Some folks that I work with do it first thing in the morning because it's so self-regulating, and it starts them off with the body memory of, understanding. Okay, so we're going to give you a few sleep tips.
Would you like to talk a little bit about light, and then I'll complement that with darkness? Just a little bit about light, and then I'll go into darkness.
Yes.
Please.
So one of the things that can be life-changing for you is to, when you get up in the morning, to the best light, it's of course natural light, and it doesn't matter if the sun's shining or not. It can be a total cloudy, rainy day. What you would do is stand in the threshold. If you can't walk outside, you would stand in the threshold of your home, take your glasses off, and just gaze at the horizon. Just gaze at the horizon. This is called yellow light, and the wavelengths are shorter. And this is what resets. This is, again, Huberman's work that we absolutely love. So he's discovered all this in his labs. But it resets the circadian rhythm for the next 24 hours. And it helps to bring in norepinephrine, which is what wakes your brain up. And it balances cortisol levels, which is brilliant. And it decreases melatonin, which you want melatonin to wane. Melatonin comes in at about 8 p.m. or sometimes earlier for people, and it goes for 12 hours until around 8 a.m. So early morning light, between the optimal time, it would be between sunrise and 1 hour. But if you don't get it, don't worry. Remember, we're not looking for, perfection here. What we're looking for is practices that work. This works. This can change your life. There is no basically biological negotiation on how powerful this is. So you stand outside or in your threshold with your glasses off, 2 to 10 minutes. You can get it as short as 2 minutes. And if you can stay a little bit longer, great. Now, say you missed the light because you sleep in because you didn't sleep well and you want to sleep. And, and I'm when I talk to people individually, I talk about, get as much sleep as you can. Because that is what is healing your body. Going without sleep is not a good idea. We know that. So you could still, the idea is to create movement also every morning in your body. And I'm sorry, there's so much to say about light, but the key is to please consider getting out in the morning light for 2 to 10 minutes without your glasses. Don't worry about how bright it is. Softly gazing. There's this whole thing about eye gazing that really helps with your neurochemistry. So it's a soft gaze. Okay, there's a whole bunch more I could say, but I'm going to turn it over to Larry for darkness.
So Linda's talking about light to activate the brain, to reset the biological clock within the body. And I just want to mention the importance of darkness at night. So in the bedroom, it's very, very important to create as black of an environment as possible. Blackout shades are optimal. And if you can't use blackout shades, and if it works for you, get a face mask that can block the light. Because when we move into darkness, the endogenous, the naturally occurring melatonin in the brain is activated. Without supplementation, you can raise melatonin levels by darkening your sleep environment. Very, very important. And then also, if you're watching television or on the computer at night, what we advocate at nighttime is blue blocking glasses. Glasses, spectacles that block the blue light spectrum that will help to preserve your sleep. You can buy these really clunky glasses on Amazon or elsewhere. You can actually place over your spectacles,
Yeah.
or like us, because we are so much advocating this, we have
The
our
blue
own
block,
prescription
it's
spectacles
in the glasses.
that are integrated with blue light blocking. So that's important. Also, bed boundaries, Linda alluded to. There are two S words that are to only be engaged in within the bed: sleep and sex. So those are the two activities, not smartphones, not laptops. Don't feel ashamed if that has happened. But if we really want to train the mind and body to sleep and rest in the bed, then only sleep or sex is to be
And
engaged
I want
in
to
the bed.
add a little bit more about this, the light importance is
Mhm.
just a little bit of blue light. And keep in mind, all artificial light is blue light. So all the bulbs that you have in your house, so in the evening, you want to start turning down the noise of light. Okay. Only a small amount of blue light will disrupt your sleep. If you get up in the middle of the night and you look at a screen, or you look at any kind of light that is radiating blue light, just have a very soft, warm night light.
Yeah.
That's it, to go to the bathroom or whatever. Because even a little bit, just a few moments of blue light will disrupt your sleep. And is that worth it? So this is where we have to practice mindful restraint. We have to understand that, we have to create boundaries around our sleep and sleeping.
Yes.
Now, I mean, we don't have time to go into the benefits of deep, slow wave sleep and REM sleep. And I'm sorry about that, but we do every month we do a workshop, and we'll give you information at the end. We're also going to send Gray our reference list that has a lot of these researchers integrated into that. Also has a link for the blue block glasses. And I'll send the link for the autogenic, natural sleep recovery Autogenics. Okay, so just going to leave you. All right, I guess, Gray, there's so much more: alcohol, caffeine. I mean, I can go into all that stuff in depth, but shall we move toward any question, or, I mean, we're almost done.
I think I'd be happy. I'm sure there may be some questions out there. I think just first of all to say, wow, I've just taken so much away from that. I'm just scribbling notes left, right, and center. And I think everybody watching is going to really realize now how I was inspired just from a week in Italy to actually be inspired by you both. So really, 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 really thanks for that. Any questions? If anybody's got any questions, you can unmute yourself, or if you prefer to pop it in the chat, I can read the chat, or you can use the little hand button in the reactions bit in the chat if anybody wants to ask any questions. I'm sure there are plenty.
Questions, I cover this.
Anything, any points anybody wants to raise? Any comments, any thoughts? Yes, there we go, Sarah. Sarah, hi.
Hello. I suspect your answer to this will be don't think about it, but there's often a suggestion that there's sort of an average of REM sleep and an average of deep sleep, and that is vast, but what happens if you're sort of at the bottom of both of them? Is there a kind of average of combined REM and deep sleep you ought to get, or should you just be focusing on sleeping?
Yeah, you have to focus on how to get to sleep and how to relieve yourself from these short states of deep sleep and REM, because they're so essential for healing. And there's so much going on in both of those phases. All phases are important, but there's just a whole lot going on. So I would say, they say about, I think 60% of the night should be in deep wave sleep. I mean, that's optimal. But, you know, I don't like to talk about that too much because number one, we're not absolute, it's not an absolute science. But number two, it worries people. If you, especially one thing that I want to encourage you to do, a lot of people are wearing these devices that tell how much deep wave sleep and REM sleep there. I say, please take those off. Please take those off, because what it does is it sets you up for anticipatory anxiety and it makes it worse. Unless you're a person who just loves facts and your brain just, you know, just has to have that.
It works for some people.
It works for some people, but most everyone that I work with, it does not work well. It gives them more concern, more worry, and it distracts them from what they really need to be doing. Okay.
I just want to,
helpful.
if I may add to that, this is consistent with that. Linda and I often talk about the rhythms of self-regulation. These are behavioral rhythms that we engage in at night, and that is speaking more softly, speaking more slowly, walking more slowly about the home, for example, relaxing our eyes, which can integrate. The eyes are part of the brain. So when you relax your eyes, in a sense, you're relaxing your brain.
Eye gazing is really good. And actually walking is one of the best exercises because you get this lateral eye movement, which you don't even know is happening, but you have to have it to be able to see what's going on when you walk. And that mimics REM sleep. So they say that after you've had a bout of, the researchers talk about, you know, peak learning, then go out for a walk. And we try to walk twice a day for self-regulation because one walk of 20 minutes is not enough. It's just not enough. You got to walk, you got to really exercise your body a lot to get it to self-regulate enough to let go at night because of, you know, our lifestyle. Okay, anybody else?
A few questions on this 90-minute cycle. So Robert was asking the term again, because I missed that as well. What is the 90-minute cycle called?
You go ahead and say the ultradian.
Ultradian.
Yes, spell it.
ULTRA, ultra.
Yeah.
Tradian.
D-R.
Tradian, yes. D-R-I-A-N.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
This is new for us too.
Ultradian.
It's a fascinating.
We've spoken to some physicians who aren't aware of it.
Right.
And Helen is asking also, with the 90-minute cycle, what should we do in it? I think that's a really good question.
Oh, well, you know, honestly, that's
appreciate it for one.
Appreciate it. We don't have time to go into it, but when I work with people privately, I talk about what potentially that could feel like, or the signals. Like when we get distracted, that's usually a time to move out of your peak learning when the brain is at its peak with norepinephrine and cortisol for learning, and then do something else. Reward yourself. And I can go into all of this interesting stuff around dopamine and the reward system, and how to work with dopamine in a way, that reward system, that it really benefits your sleep. That I am going to be talking about tomorrow in our workshop.
I was just going to say, are we all right? Because I'm all right time-wise. There's a couple more questions coming in. If you two are okay.
Sure.
But just to say to people that I'll send you the link also. I'll pop the link in the chat here as well, because Linda and Larry are doing a workshop tomorrow. I'm joining the workshop. It's their natural sleep recovery workshop, and I can't remember what time it is in the UK. I think it's in the afternoon in the UK. It's an hour and a half. So that's going to be a really good workshop if you want to join that, if you want more information. And I'll send you I think I've popped the link there into the chat. Yes, I have. But we can go to Christine, because Christine's got a question.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, Christine.
Hi, thank you both very much. Really interesting.
Oh, thank you, Christine.
I have a question about the horizon. So some of us live in a city.
Yeah.
And the first thought was, what does that mean? Because I go out of my door and I have a garden which has green in it at the back, and the front is house. So I have to look up to see sky.
Yep. Yep, that's what you got to do. You got to look up.
Look up to see the sky. Okay.
Yep. And it's all about timing. So, you know, early morning light between sunrise and an hour, hour and a half after sunrise is optimal. Yeah. And, you know, it's good to take in light throughout the day, not screen time all the time though. You know, like I made a mistake on one of my workshops, and I said, you know, get as much light in as you can, but it's not, you know, just pure screen time. It's all about getting out in nature light. But that first morning light is what's going to reset your circadian rhythms. It's actually going to do it.
Great, thank you.
And Sheila did have her hand up. I don't know whether Sheila has.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Yeah, hi, both of you. Thank you so much. It's been so interesting. As someone who battled with sleep problems, I think most of my life. And I saw Grace's reaction when you talked about the wearables, because I know both Gray and I use an Oura ring, O-U-R-A ring. And two things. I'm one of those people that it really did help, because it made me realize that my sleep was better than I thought it was. Which was really, really helpful.
That is helpful.
And also it's made me very, very aware of something I found incredibly difficult to understand until I started working with Gray and with the oxygen advantage, was this horribly confusing heart rate variability measurement, which like really did my head in as a non-scientist. But so that's useful to be able to see how the breath work improves that. But there's one thing there that I wanted to ask your advice on, and that's the latency. So what they say is that the optimal time for falling asleep is sort of between 5 and 15 minutes. I fall asleep within 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's great.
All the time. And there was something I read somewhere that said that means that the vagal tone isn't that good if you fall asleep that quickly. And I just wanted to know what your view was about latency, sleep latency.
I have some thoughts about that. You know, I think it's going to be different for everyone. Now, some people say, I can sleep, no problem. I pass out. And for some of those folks, we find they are sleep deprived.
Yeah.
And that's why the sleep latency is very short.
Yeah.
And that can also, you know, correlate with deep sleep and REM sleep at night as well. So something to check into. The other conditioning variable would be when you wake up. Do you feel refreshed? Do you feel ready to start the day? And then that will give you more or less an experiential foundation for understanding, is this good sleep I'm getting? If that makes sense.
But you wouldn't say, rule of thumb, that if you fall asleep quickly, 3 minutes.
No rule of thumb, you know, because research, of course, is always based on statistical averages. So the average person is going to be different. But I will say, you know, check into your own habits around that.
And how you feel.
And if you know, you're sleep deprived and you get to bed in 3 minutes or get to sleep in 3 minutes, well, of course, your body needs that. But if this is natural for you and you wake up feeling refreshed and alert, then I don't see any problem with that.
So I have actually trained myself to nap, you know, and I've been napping for 25 years, and I can fall asleep. I've trained myself to let go. You know, it's a process where I take myself into this letting go, and I can fall asleep in a nap in 3 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. But that, again, that takes a lot of conscious awareness of consistency and telling yourself that this is okay, and allowing yourself that space. It's not, you know, not everyone. And again, I apologize if I dissed these devices. You know, mostly what I'm saying is for people with anticipatory anxiety, those don't work so great for tracking their sleep, but for other people and for other reasons. And I love, Sheila, that you found that's not the usual story. The usual story I get from people with devices is, oh my God, I'm getting 1 hour of deep wave sleep, you know? Yeah. So
I think if
that's
it connects you more to your body's rhythms for healthy sleep, it's a great thing.
Yeah.
If it connects you more to your mind
Yeah.
around analyzing
Yeah.
and critically judging,
yeah.
then it's probably not so beneficial.
Probably do both, in truth.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice answer. It's like when we're talking with Garmin's and things like that for running.
Yeah.
Everything you think about is if you understand why you're using the biofeedback. Feedback is the key word there, because it's giving you feeding back information. If we rely on that information rather than listening to our bodies, that's when the problems come in. And I agree totally.
Exactly.
I use Aura Ring, but you might wake up and go, yeah, I had a really good night's sleep, and then the app will say you had a really bad night's sleep, so you feel terrible. So you've got to be in a point where you understand your body before you start getting the feedback. I feel so before you start using the app.
Exactly. Very well.
Well, now
said.
you can see why we love working with Gray, because we're so much on the same kind of wavelength of, understanding. It's just so wonderful, Gray. Thank you.
And speaking of connecting to your body, we recently came across a cultural researcher, who looked at some of these rare indigenous tribes. I think they were in the Amazon jungle.
Aren't in light pollution.
They have no electricity. There are very few of them on the planet now, of course. They could not grasp the concept of insomnia
or not sleeping
or
well.
sleeplessness.
Yeah.
Because it's just not
just
part
doesn't.
of their experience. They are so connected to the natural rhythms, and of course have no devices, and that's no computer screens to wake them up, that it was just another natural phenomenon. Like it would be tantamount to saying, do you ever not breathe for a few hours? No, that just doesn't happen if you're alive. So that's hope, though, that within our biopsychosocial process, that we can harness, what is our ancestral heritage, if you will. When electricity became very prominent during the Industrial Revolution, our brains changed because our behavior changed and our activity levels changed, our neurochemistry changed. So now we have to work with what has been imprinted within our mind and body for a long time, that is contrary, actually not too long time, that is contrary to the millennia that our ancestors were not exposed to electricity. Yeah.
So I'd like to close, if you don't mind, on this idea of having compassion for our challenges. And sleep challenges, it trickles into everything, doesn't it? It trickles into our relationships, our ability to think clearly, not have foggy heads, so on and so forth, our physicality. So I would like to invite you to just hold yourself with compassion, because we're all learning. Thank God, every day we have this brain that can actually learn these things. And we have this beautiful body that gives us feedback in relationship to our connection. So just, I want to leave you with hope and compassion, and this sense of, even if you're really struggling right now, that this is passing. This is passing, and it's just part of how you're living life, and it's part of life itself. And so that's our hope for you, is that there's a sense of a deeper sense of yourself in this work.
And that you would take away maybe just one thing to implement that can hopefully make a difference.
Yeah, something that spoke to you. We appreciate you all.
Love that. I think for me, it was healthy sleep is a balanced daytime. That really struck a chord with me. And the remember as well, I think that goes good. So the mindfulness is just remembering. It makes it quite simple. Really, really appreciate that, Larry and Linda. It's a fantastic time. You've given up of your time, and I'm sure everybody's going to be very grateful for that. As I say, they're doing Larry and Linda are presenting the workshop tomorrow. So if you want to join that, it's live online. I shall be there listening to that. Next week, we've got a Wim Hof coach coming along. So going to have, so if anybody wants to come and do some really heavy, strong breathing and get a little bit more information on Wim Hof, I will send you more information on that. And Linda and Larry will send me that stuff, and I'll get that off to you and get this recording up on Vimeo on a private link, so you can then watch this recording back if you want to watch it back. So just to finish off again, really, really appreciate your time, Linda, Larry. Thank you so much. Go and have a nice rest of your day now. And
thank you, Greg. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
For joining.
Yeah.
Be well.
Best to you.
Sleep well.
Sleep well.
Thank you.